Listen up.
Welcome to the PowerShell Podcast, the podcast for PowerShell and the PowerShell community. And now, here's your host, Andrew Plaw.
Hello, friends. Welcome to another interview on the PowerShell Podcast. We are at TechMentor, at your job at Microsoft.
Yeah, it's TechMentor at Microsoft. This is so cool. I love it when I do that.
It's quite the sprawling campus, and it's been fun. You've kind of introduced me to some secrets. This is Jason Helmick, by the way. Had him on the podcast before, PM at Microsoft. But there's so much, like almost, well, definitely lore, but like secrets to Microsoft's campus.
There's these remarkable, amazing, 50 years of Microsoft. And so around this campus, there's all kinds of interesting, fun things to see that have happened over those 50 years. Go to Building 18, look at the ground. There's all these bricks where they put all of the original release products, their release dates. You can go back and find Microsoft Bob back there. It's great. And you see all of these bricks, and then you see where they decided they stopped, and then they moved on to something else. There's hidden rooms. There's all kinds of interesting things around campus. So if you get a chance to come to a conference at the Microsoft campus or something, grab hold of a PM and make them take you around somewhere neat.
That's awesome. And don't forget the Microsoft store. You know that everyone takes a photo at that sign where it says Microsoft. That's right outside the Microsoft store. A bunch of us were taking photos there the other day. One really notable thing you told me was that, did you know there's a piece of the Berlin Wall in the building we're in right now? And I was like, what? No, I thought you were joking. It was like a joke that kind of went over my head. I was like, uh-huh. But no, there's actually a piece of the Berlin Wall in the hallway we all walk down every single day. I think literally everyone has walked past it. I don't know how many people have actually realized.
That's the tricky part, is that it's really remarkable. Microsoft has an amazing art collection, and they don't hide it. It's in all of the buildings, everywhere. It's different, all of this. But at the main conference center at Microsoft, they have a giant piece of the cement Berlin Wall. And I'll bet you every week there's a few hundred people that walk by it that don't even realize that. There's a plaque at the side, and it's all spray painted from the original graffiti that was on the wall when it came down. It's really amazing.
That is so wild. I posted it on my socials if you want to check out the photo. But yeah, I've been scratching my head at that one all week. But a fantastic week so far. It is the last day of the official conference, as you got to go back to your normal job tomorrow.
Yeah, this has actually been kind of a nice vacation. I'll be honest. It's been, like most conferences are, but I just love tech mentors. They're so technical, which is kind of the point, especially if you're in an IT audience. This is really geared towards you. And it's been just this amazing week to get a lot of feedback. A lot of folks have been telling us, what they like, what they don't like, in which I really love what they don't like, because that gives us something to do.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I have to go back to work, and it's like, this is a nice vacation.
Yeah. No, I can imagine, especially in your role where you're kind of pushing things forward. Sometimes it takes a long time and you're kind of in that world. And then you get to see people who maybe haven't known everything about PowerShell and aren't reading every single issue and new feature and the change log, and kind of see where it is for them and how they're getting tons of value. And you can introduce them to something maybe the team did forever ago. They've never heard of it ever, and it blows their mind.
And I love that. I really do. One of the interesting things is, we can sometimes get kind of hidden away because we're kind of head down trying to solve problems and push things forward. But at the same time, what's really great about these conferences is the ability to show up and start hearing feedback. And what you just said, it's one of my favorite things when somebody's like, hey, what's that? You're typing and there's like these suggestions flying by of what you could pick. How'd you get those? And it's like, PS read line. Yes. All you have to do is turn it on.
Oh my gosh. After your session, you just gave a session with Sean Wheeler about AI Shell, but afterwards, Sean told a guy named Tamer about PS read line key handlers.
Oh, yeah.
And he had no clue about PS read line or any of that. His mind was blown, and getting to see that for him. When you first get introduced to PS read line, there is so much there. I was telling him, it's so core to the experience of PowerShell.
Yeah.
Like, once you discover it and start adopting it to work for you and configuring it, you're going to be set forever. Like, it's just perspective changer.
PS Readline is the best shell UX that we've had applied onto PowerShell, and it just keeps getting better and better. And you just mentioned AI Shell, which is, it's an interface of using AI in the shell for a shell user. So you're not getting bounced around all these websites and stuff like that. And these agents are trained to help you at command line, building commands, building scripts for AZCLI, Azure PowerShell, PowerShell, all to assist you and help you get things more accurate and kind of build your way through solutions.
Absolutely. And anytime we talk about this stuff, I got to think about Stephen Bucher a little bit.
Oh, and he's the best part because for AI Shell, he has been, along with the lead engineer for the project, Dongbo Wang, Stephen Bucher has been driving this project now I remember he started this a couple of years ago, and he just run around going, it doesn't make sense to do this. And now all of a sudden he's come up with ways of doing it and getting it all to work. And he's driving this project. We're getting things like MCP server support just released for AI Shell Preview 6. It's a pretty remarkable time period.
And in this, if you're listening to a podcast, if you're in your career into PowerShell, like you're probably growing and we're all growing together. And I've been watching him grow and interviewing him along the way here and there. And I remember pretty early on, we were talking about just PS Readline. AI wasn't so much in the conversation as much, but I noticed his perspective was like really good because I'm very also interested in like making that interactive experience better. But I noticed like he really does quite well read on the subject and has a good vision for it. Like just kind of reading between the lines and seeing how he thinks about it. And now it's been like years, have progressed. Now there's AI Shell, PS Readline is on top of the world for me.
His point of view, his perspective is really driving some big changes at Microsoft. I mean, Stephen is definitely, I call him all the time for advice. He is doing amazing work here with AI Shell and some other projects that you'll hear about later.
Oh, awesome. So AI Shell, talked about it a ton on the podcast. I'm a huge fan of it. We just mentioned you just gave a talk on it. I want to talk about DSC as well from earlier in the week.
Yeah.
But a little bit about AI Shell. What is it generically? Like at a high level, people haven't heard of it. What is AI Shell?
Well, when you break it down, it's like using ChatGPT in your shell, but the appearance of it makes it work better. And the way that Stephen and engineering has plumbed this makes it more, it's not just an accelerator that gives you the answer. It does, but it'll also explain it to you. It'll also help you put in the arguments into the parameters. So it's a helping tool, keeping you still in control, not just a fast accelerator. But it's probably one of the best help systems that we'll be able to add into PowerShell as well. And you get this great experience. It splits the screen so that you get a great PowerShell window to do your work in, and AI is responding to you as you're working. And you can get it to help you fill in commands, explain the commands, find the commands for you. How do I do this? And it comes back and shows you how to do it and makes it really easy for you to move code back and forth and work with it. It's a great UX experience to try out while we have it in preview so we can get your feedback on it and improve it.
Yep, I've been using it for a couple months now. And I mean, I'm using ChatGPT very regularly, maybe at a high level to get some ideas or get feedback. And if I'm going between my terminal and a website, like that back and forth context switching, your boy's got a short attention span. I need to keep it all centered. And you can do that now in the same terminal.
And you have to copy all this stuff over into your shell. It's not right. You have to correct all this stuff. You're probably adding more mistakes than you're actually fixing, putting in the values you want. AI Shell is doing it all for you right in the shell so that you can experience that. And the other really cool thing about this is AI Shell is really extensible. It ships with a couple of agents. The OpenAI agent, which you can use with, OpenAI, you can use it with Azure, in Microsoft, Llama, Gemini, all of that. It also ships with Azure Copilot, same thing you use in the portal, but you can add your own agents. You can go out to the AI Foundry, Azure AI Foundry, build your own models on your own data that you're going to run. So instead of using a public model, it's private to you, so you can keep everything the way that you want it, safe and secured. It's very extensible. So give it a shot and try it out.
Awesome. And you can do it for free with the Llama too. Very simple setup.
Did we happen to mention that AI Shell is 4 easy payments of absolutely free? Because PowerShell's free, AI Shell is free. So there's no reason why you can't get started trying out the experience. And it's going to be free. So it's cool.
Yeah, I'm curious. If you end up getting it set up, let me know what it's like for you. Because it just feels, I always say this, anything that makes me feel like hackery or like, oh, I've really got my computer configured. Having the sidecar experience just pop up, start AI Shell, get it popping up. Another big win for me was resolve error. So if you get like an error, Resolve Error can ask AI what would be some solutions for it. Just shortening that feedback loop and making it easier. But fantastic. DSC. Big things happening in that space. I've talked about it here and there. But what's been going on with DSC? I hear there's like a new version or something like that.
So desired state configuration, some of you may already know about this. It's been out for about 10 years. Version 1 is mainly for configuration management of server infrastructure. So not just your servers, but SQL, Exchange, your infrastructure services, DHCP, all that kind of stuff. And it was really tightly focused on that. And you would write a very simple configuration, just explaining your desire. I want a server, here's its name, I want SQL, I want a couple of databases. You don't have to know how to do it, because when you write that config, you're calling resources that do know how to do it. So all of the brilliance is already built in for you, and now it'll configure it the way that you want. That's really cool for servers. We had a version 2. That was in case you wanted to go from on-prem to the cloud, and the agent shifted to what we call machine config. Well, that was nice, but it was for Windows servers. Hey, I'm in PowerShell. We're cross-platform. The new version of DSC, V3, is all cross-platform. So it'll manage your Windows stuff, your servers, your Linux, your Mac. But wait, your apps, your services, your IoT devices, whatever you got. See, what we did is we decoupled DSC from PowerShell. Now, before anybody panics, what that means is that all of DSC is now this little tiny native command. That little tiny native command that is cross-platform can be used anywhere. And unlike the old days, where if you wanted to put a config on a small device, you had to bring all of PowerShell with you in order to run this engine. Now you got this itty-bitty, tiny, weeny, itty-bitty command, and you can give it configs, and it can do that stuff, and you can pass that command around anywhere to anything. So it's much smaller, much tighter. It's got a great orchestration engine in it, and it's all based on ARM. Here's the best part about ARM. Not only can you manage everything on-prem, you can manage everything in the cloud. And because you can manage everything in the cloud and on-prem, we're going to make it really easy so that if you write configs on-prem, you just take those same configs, put them into Azure. You've already done the testing. You've already made sure it worked. It goes right into Azure, and you're golden. Your workloads are now running in the cloud. You want to take those workloads out of the cloud, run them back on-prem? Fine. Just take those configs and redo it. You don't have to rewrite stuff anymore. You don't have to, I'm on-prem and I'm going hybrid and I'm going cloud and I got all this new different tooling. No, it's all the same tools, all the same language, all works the same to make it easier for you and the people that you work with in your workflow that may not be super experts at PowerShell, but they happen to know ARM templates, Bicep, the things in Azure. They're cloud engineers and they know that kind of stuff. Well, now you're all talking the same language. So the point to desired state is to be able to configure whatever you need to configure, from systems to services to applications. To do it today with DSC v3 is a lot easier. And the best part is because we've decoupled it from PowerShell and made it smaller, the first versions of DSC, Microsoft used DSC for its own stuff internally, but they never built it into other products. There were no other teams that adopted it. Now there are other teams adopting it, which means they're making new products, what I call higher order tools, that use DSC to accomplish the job that don't even require you to code. Check out Ignite. You might see some interesting things with UIs and stuff of being able to, this is what I want, and this is what I want, and this is what I want. And then it generates a configuration and then it does it for you. So there's a lot of new higher order tooling ways to do configuration management where you may not have to be at the deep end of the code side. Maybe that's not what you need. Maybe you only need to configure a couple of things and you'd like to use winget config, one of my favorite tools that's got DSC v3 already built into it. You can do that. It's pretty cool stuff, man.
When anyone gives a talk, it's really great to grab their attention early. So they get interested, they can see maybe what they're going to be learning about. And I think that in your talk, you had a really impactful one. You used DSC to change from light mode to dark mode on your computer. Yeah,
so and I love this because it last March, just a few months ago, is when we originally released DSC v3.0 for general availability. And we were doing, Steve Lee, who's the engineering manager and engineering lead for DSC, along with Michael Green and myself, we were doing a conference to talk about it. And just a couple of minutes before showtime, Steve Lee, like most of us, we work in dark mode. But when you do a presentation, you want to do in light mode. He's got his Windows box and it's all in dark mode. And he's like, help me flip this thing to light mode. I don't know if you thought about this, but it's kind of hard to quickly flip everything on Windows from dark mode to light mode or light mode to dark mode, because different apps have different configuration settings. Maybe you want some, maybe. So it took us literally over 10 minutes to get it flipped all into light mode. So the demo that I did was, one of the things that we had done with DSC is we quickly just wrote up a configuration that flips a Windows box from light mode to dark mode. So my first demonstration was, I'm in dark mode, let's just flip the entire Windows thing to light mode. And we did it in a second. DSC config set, gave it the configuration, which essentially is just the 5 registry keys that you need to do it. And boom, it happens instantly. And the best part about that is, yeah, I did it for my machine, but I could have actually done that to 1,000 machines in a heartbeat. Same way. I could have used PowerShell remoting. I could have used a deployment agent of another kind. Whatever you want, I could have gotten it out there and done it to a bunch of folks. So the idea behind DSC is that you can configure what you need to configure, and you can do it at scale. And now that Microsoft is starting to, some of the teams are incorporating DSC into their tooling, and Microsoft will start using DSC. We're really serious about this when we're dog fooding our own stuff. So this is definitely the wave of the future now.
Thinking selfishly for the people who are maybe newer to these technologies, it sounds like the barrier to entry to start learning DSC and being able to, whenever you hear it on the podcast or at talks at conferences, you hear DSC, you can be like familiar, comfortable. You've done it one time. The ideas you've done, like you said, can scale up from one machine to a bunch. But do you find that you just need a machine to run this on and you can kind of do it locally?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's a lot of fun to take a couple of VMs, if you got them on your laptop, maybe build a server 25, if that's one of the things you want to configure, or build a VM of something that you want to configure and start to play with DSC. Whatever you're doing to one box, you can do to 1,000 boxes, but have fun playing with one box. Break it, smoke test the daylights out of it. Do things like have DSC set the network configuration for you so it meets whatever your security compliance needs are, closing off whatever ports you need, that kind of stuff. Have it configure whatever shares, user accounts that you want on the box. What roles, features, how do you want those roles and features configured? It's more than just putting a web server on the box. What websites do you want to configure? What ports do you want to configure? This can all be done with the resources that exist today for DSC, even on server 2025. See, the best part with DSC v3 is it uses all of the resources that were written for v1 and v2. So it already has thousands of feature capabilities for configuration built in. As we build new resources with DSC v3, you're going to get a lot of new features, like being able to export a configuration from an existing box. Now, for a decade, that has been one of the most requested capabilities. And thanks to the Winget team and the engineers for DSC, we now have an export capability. So working with other teams and being able to build the new revolution of configuration management, wow, it's pretty cool.
I'm curious, because you and Michael Green, I'm sure others on the team, but quite notably have been into this space for a very, very long time. When V3 shipped, on a personal level, away from the mic, did you kind of celebrate personally and feel like, holy crap? One of those reflection moments.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. Just this morning, one of the attendees here stopped by and said, I was here in 2016 when you were talking about DSC v1. I'm like, yeah, that's it's been a long time. Michael Green and I, in particular, we didn't know if we'd ever see another version of DSC again.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a couple things that we wanted to do. Michael had actually publicly said that we were going to open source DSC and we'd start building and working on, things changed at Microsoft and that didn't happen. And Michael felt terrible about it. I felt terrible about it. And one day he called me up and he said, hey, can we try to work on open sourcing it? So we eventually, about 4 years ago or something, got DSC open sourced. Yay. But then the question was, do we want to build anything else on it? And I really have to say, there's been a lot of great thinking. Steve Lee has been monumental in the deep, great thinking of where does this need to be today and where does it go for the future? And this is why we quickly came across things like decouple it from PowerShell to make it small.
That's a big one.
So it can go anywhere. The other thing is you can write the resources for DSC in any language. Doesn't have to be written in PowerShell. You can write it in Rust, Go, Python, for you Linux folks, whatever you need. Your configurations right now, they're YAML configurations. We need JSON at the end of the day. I don't think you want to write in JSON. Quite honestly, I don't want to write in YAML. So what we're doing right now is we're adding bicep support. Bicep looks almost exactly like the PowerShell way of doing it. And I love Bicep. Bicep is a great language because here's the benefit you get. If you're on-prem writing Bicep configs, it's just going to work. If you want to move that workload to the cloud, that Bicep config, that's what works in Azure. So you could literally write a Bicep infrastructure as code, building your resource groups, setting up the VMs, the VNets, all of that, and then write the Bicep code for the configuration of what goes inside those VMs. Now it makes it easy for everyone. Systems people on-prem now have the common language of the cloud engineers. We can have workflows where we can test each other's stuff. We can approve each other's stuff. We all understand how to troubleshoot the same thing. It cuts down a lot of the riffraff and the chafe of trying to get work done.
That's fantastic. Cool, that's freaking awesome. But I gotta say,
and believe me, Michael and I, when Steve was like, I think we should do this.
Yeah,
we were celebrating because this has been something we've wanted to do for a long time.
I wonder what the world would look like if the PowerShell team did not have so many visionaries who were always willing to push for the greater good for such a long period of time. I mean, it's wild how many amazing individuals we've had on the PowerShell team. It
really is, and we've been really lucky that Jeffrey Snover kind of instituted this idea of the sacred vow. And the sacred vow was, hey folks, you use and work with PowerShell and give us feedback. The responsibility of the PowerShell team is to go around to all of the other teams at Microsoft, understand what they're going to ship next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and make sure that PowerShell is growing to be able to handle those technologies so that when you see Microsoft come out and say, hey, we've got this new product and you're going to love it. And when you say, I might love it, but can I manage it with PowerShell? Can I automate it at scale? The answer is going to be yes. So our job is to always go out and try to understand what Microsoft is cooking up next from its different teams. So we get a lot of help from different teams, exploring new ideas. This is one of the great things at Microsoft. One Microsoft is we share these ideas. But yes, when it comes back to the team, I'm a little biased, but I think we got some pretty awesome, amazing engineers that are great leaders and visionaries, knowing what Microsoft is shipping, knowing what our partners outside of Microsoft are working on, because we help a lot of those partners. We work with them. They're our friends. Understanding that, making sure PowerShell's always being up for the job, the task that you need it to do. Everybody's thinking really hard, but yet we'll still get some of these brilliant ideas from these folks that'll help us accelerate in areas that we hadn't even thought about a year before.
That is awesome. Yeah, it's so fun to watch these things develop over the years as an outsider. Like seeing DSC get where it is, I know you guys have put a lot of hard work onto it, especially recently.
Yeah, and there's a lot more work that needs to go into it.
Yeah.
We're at version, we released 3.0 in March. In June, we released 3.1. So you can see we're really active. Right now, we're shipping 3.2 previews. Give Steve a few weeks and he'll get 3.2 GA out. Then we're going to 3.3. And you're like, well, wait a minute. What's going on? Right now, we're building the platform for our partners to consume for their products as well as taking feedback from you and some of our early adopters to make sure that we're covering all the scenarios. So we're really working hard on the platform. That's why we're doing the fast iteration of the version numbers. And then when we're pretty happy, we're going to release a long-term service release, an LTS. And at that point, we might up the version number to version 4 at that point. That's kind of what we're thinking right now, so that it kind of states we're at LTS, rock solid. But as we're building this platform out right now with our partners and with our community, this is the best time to engage with us and to try it out.
Awesome. And, sometimes whenever I get started with something, I like a handbook of sorts. Is there anything for DSC that you might think of as a handbook?
Look, we have Mikey Lombardi is our documentarian for DSC, and he does a great job on writing all this reference docs. And he is so busy because as fast as Steve Lee and the rest of the DSC team, Tess and Aditya and all these great folks are pounding down code, Mikey's back there trying to write up the docs. And he's also a designer, so he's trying to design the next thing. We don't have a whole lot of learning documentation to get started with, but I do have a great source for you. And I cannot say enough nice things about this gentleman, one of our top contributors to the DSC repo. And it's not just DSC. He contributes to DSC. He contributes to Plaid EPS. He contributes to Winget. He is so contributing. Heis contributes a ton. You will see his issues, his PRs, but here's what you're going to see best. Go out to LeanPub and look for a DSC book. You're going to see Heis has written a DSC V3 book that he is continually updating as we're building the platform. That's a great way to get started. And wait a minute, what is this thing really? What do I have to do? How do I get started? What's a config look like? What's a what are all these things? Great way to get started is go use Heis's book, which is a DSC V3 book off LeanPub. And hey, yay, Heis, you're awesome.
He really is.
He also wrote one on Plaid EPS. So if you are working with updating help documentation in your PowerShell commandlets and you want to work with Plaid EPS, go pick up his book on Plaid EPS, for crying out loud. But yeah, that's a great place to get started.
Yeah, that is fantastic. And I think what you said about Mikey is so true for so much of the team.
Yeah.
Stephen Booker, they all, everyone, it's like, oh, you're a document. No, you're a PM. No, everyone is in there, in the code, trying things out. It's not like, it's very close to what you're doing.
And I think Sydney Smith, one of our other PMs, does this, but she describes the entire team as we're scrappy because since we're the automation team and all that kind of stuff, sometimes the hardest problems end up on our shoulders at the very end of the development cycle. And it's like, we got to figure something out. We are scrappy. We will figure it out. We will get it done. We will find a way around it. If you have an issue and it's been out there for 2 years, that doesn't mean that we haven't been working on it. It means it's been a really hard problem. We have an issue that's been out for 2 years and we're finally getting to close it. It's a huge one, the OneDrive issue. We will get it done. We will figure it out. But we also move quick. Yeah. And we love, we all love both PowerShell, the products that we work on, the modules, things like DSC and PS Readline and PS Resource Get and AI Shell and all of these things that we work on all the time. We're doing it out of passion, but we're trying to help each other find solutions and move forward. It's not easy to ship because there's a lot of requirements we want to make sure. We don't want to break our customers, and so we got to do a lot of testing and a lot of thinking. But it's worth it every time we can do it and solve a problem for somebody.
Awesome, man. Gosh. It's just, I feel so fortunate to be part of the PowerShell community and to, the vibes that the PowerShell team has, it kind of funnels out from there, and to see all the people learning and all the new developments. And I really do what I said earlier about the visionaries in PowerShell long term. I mean, I have never known another product team like I know the PowerShell team. But it would be hard for me to imagine that they're all quite as high quality. I'm sure there's tons of great teams at Microsoft, but there are some special individuals. And not just that, it seems like the culture itself is very connected to the impact that you have.
Well, I thank Satya Nadella for the wonderful culture of One Microsoft that we have today that makes it such a wonderful work environment for us all to work in, where we can be scrappy and still responsible and still secure and still have great ideas that we feel empowered to go down the road and go after. I agree with you about the environment at Microsoft. I would say that I've had this experience with so many teams at Microsoft. It's not just us.
Yeah.
It's not just us that love what we do and are scrappy at what we do, and that every team I work with, the question is always, it's not what I want. What does the customer want? And let's see if we can figure this out. Because the customer is what drives. You are what drives us. And so we want to get it right. And that's kind of a fun passion to have, is how do we help? And how do we help the best? How do we make it right?
Yeah. And I guess if you've heard something in this podcast you want to check out, take your next step. I think there's a big difference that I've seen in my career. The times whenever I'll hear about something and just store it away versus I'll hear about something and I'll dabble a little bit. I'll actually get hands-on, actually get that experience, because when you do it that way, you make it more comfortable to do that again, but also you really are able to remember it a little bit deeper. And in this world, we're reading a lot of information. Any excuse we can have to let it sink in a little bit is only going to pay off long-term. But Jason, thank you so much for joining me. We covered a lot of stuff. Is there anything else we wanted to say before we went?
Here's what I want to say. Andrew is always at these conferences with us, and from the PowerShell team, all of us here on the PowerShell team, so deeply appreciate PDQ and you doing the podcast and all the work that you've done. You're just as scrappy as we are, so thank you so much.
Thanks. I mean, we see the vision. I've seen how PowerShell can change people's lives. How could you not want to be involved in sharing more of that?
It's fun.
It feels too good. It feels too good. It's selfish. It's also community-oriented.
And it helps people. It helps people. We're all struggling to do the same thing, is make our systems better, make them more compliant, make them more secured. And we'd like to have a weekend to ourselves. So learn PowerShell, automate your future, make it a lot better for yourself.
Absolutely. Invest the time. It will pay off. Guaranteed. Everyone I talk to confirms that they've reached awesome career milestones for themselves, and you can do it too. Just buy in, take your next step, and join us in the PowerShell community. Thanks, Jason.
This is the PowerShell Podcast.
Most of you know the PowerShell Podcast is sponsored and made possible by PDQ. I've had questions from listeners asking, what's PDQ and what do you do? Well, we help IT teams automate endpoint management. PDQ Connect is our cloud-based tool for real-time software deployment, patching, scripting, remote access, and vulnerability management. It's fast, flexible, and built for people who just want things to work. If you want to see it in action, head to pdq.com/podcast and check out our interactive demo. No signups, no emails, no credit card, just a fast and easy way to explore how it works. That's pdq.com/podcast. Automated endpoint management that doesn't slow you down.
Now, back to the PowerShell Podcast.
We are here for another bar session at TechMentor. Currently we're in Bellevue, Washington at the Hyatt Regency in the lobby. Feeling a little bit awkward with people walking by as we're sitting here with the camera as IT folks. Is this your first time on a podcast?
Yes, it is.
And who am I joined by today?
My name is Troy Brown.
Yep. Where are you from?
I'm from Louisiana.
And you're a sysadmin, or what kind of stuff do you do?
Sysadmin.
Nice. And is this your first time at this conference?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Well, let's give people a little bit of an introduction. So, yeah, we are live at a conference it's later in the night, so I appreciate you coming by. Do you remember when we met? Do you remember? I mean, it was earlier today, but
yeah.
So
this morning.
I have a long history of if you come up to me at a conference and you say you're a podcast listener, my friend, I'm asking you to join me to talk about it.
Yeah, I found that out.
So, I mean, whenever I invited you to come to dinner with us, let me be clear. The point was not necessarily like, hey, let me rope him into a podcast episode, but I couldn't say no,
Yeah, come on.
when you're there. But have you been to tech conferences before? Is this kind of the first?
No, I've been to several Spiceworks tech conferences down in Austin, Texas.
Nice.
But this is the first TechMentor conference.
Nice. And are you enjoying it so far?
Yes, I'm really liking it. Very informative. Well put together.
Yeah. And I think you were here for Monday as well, right? You were here
Correct,
for the
right.
PowerShell. There was a workshop. Talked about it with Sean Wheeler a little bit, where they had basically a deep dive in PowerShell, how to become immediately effective. How'd you feel about that? Because I know you mentioned, you came up to me, you said you've listened to the podcast before, so you've kind of been interested in PowerShell. Maybe you've seen there's some cool stuff you can do with it on the higher end, but
right.
sort of how was that for you with where you are in your journey?
I learned a lot on especially when you're talking about the modules of PowerShell.
Yeah.
Because I've always watched and heard about the scripts and things and talking about the modules, but I never really knew how to find exactly what module I would need for what I need to do, and they covered that. And so that was the biggest help for me.
Yeah, find module is the magical command. And for those who have never heard of what a module is basically a way to share PowerShell commands, right? So you have your functions like, you can think of something like get command. That is a PowerShell command. And that's in something called a module, and you can share that with others. So if you import a module, or you find a module that's for some software you use, or it interacts with something that you have in your environment, well, all of a sudden, if you import that module, you have access to new commands that may save you an insane amount of time. And oftentimes, literally can save like 40 hours worth of work, especially if you're not like super advanced at PowerShell. It's kind of wild. When you can open up the world of modules, it's a game changer. So definitely recommend checking out Find Module Command and just modules in general, like exploring that. If you've kind of come to a spot where you're not getting more value from PowerShell, modules is going to give you some easy wins.
Yeah, exactly.
So have you installed a lot of modules before, or are you just using kind of what's in the box up to now?
Using what's in the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too much. During the class, I did install an Active Directory module that I found, because that's mainly what I'm going to be using it for.
Yeah, you can do a lot with that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're going to be. It's fun. It's cool to see people in that spot where PowerShell can have such an impact on them. So, can you share a little bit about sort of your experience with PowerShell thus far, how you heard about it, why you started looking into it, and where you are mentally with approaching it? Because I could share for me, learning PowerShell was a bit of a process for me. It took me a little bit of time, so I'm curious to hear what that's like for others. If you could share a little bit about where you are in your journey.
Okay, I first learned about PowerShell in the previous Spiceworks Tech Conference.
Last year?
A couple of years ago.
Okay.
And then the company that I work at, we ended up using PDQ. We brought PDQ on, and a lot of what PDQ does is push out PowerShell scripts.
Yeah.
And so I just started kind of like looking it up, using search engines, kind of putting things together, or going on to different communities where people already had an idea of a script that I could use.
Yeah, kind of borrow it.
Matter of fact, I believe PDQ has a PowerShell gallery of sorts on their website, which I found some information on.
Yeah, there's a lot of PowerShell content on our website.
That's where I'm mainly at right now, just using the basic, maybe 1-2 line scripts and having PDQ push it out.
Nice, yeah, because that's kind of the magic of PowerShell. You can find like literally one line of code that can do exactly what's taking you manual time and is a very inefficient process. And if you can push that out or have a way to run that automatically, you can do a whole lot with a little, right?
Right, exactly.
I think Jeffrey Snover said it's like programming with hand grenades or something like that, because you can have a very large impact with a very small amount of effort. But so that is interesting. So you are in the spot now to kind of leverage PowerShell. How's it feeling? Is it like, as a sysadmin, are you feeling like overwhelmed by it? Are you feeling like it's approachable, or sort of where are we there?
I think it's very approachable. If anything, it has helped alleviate some of the overwhelm that naturally comes with the position.
Yeah.
When you have because one of the things you can do, you can manage, there's many desktop servers or whatever that you need to with PowerShell rather than go one by one manually.
Yep.
And when you have a bunch of end users that really need your assistance, so it really helps out, to take that stress level down.
And being fully transparent, that's what drives me so much. Like what we're doing here with PowerShell, or if you're able to contribute to the community in some way, you are literally helping people. And I was in the same exact boat. Like that's when PowerShell met me. It's like totally overworked, in over your head. When you're checking in for work, it's a stressful day. You're backed up. You're not on top of things. You're reacting all the time.
Right.
And when you can start implementing automation and taking care of some of these core issues that are sucking up all your time and mental energy, you can get, it changes really your life ultimately. Like the experience you have of life is now way less stressful, and it feels like you're building towards something that, if you listen to this podcast a lot, you'll talk to a lot of people whose lives have been transformed in a pretty amazing way, myself included, through PowerShell. And all you have to do is embrace the journey, and you can come along for that ride too.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that is very good insights there. I love hearing from people who are I love hearing from people who've been in PowerShell for a long time. I love geeking out about it, but I also love people who are in the spot to heavily benefit from implementing that.
Right.
Yeah. If you had to say one thing that's been challenging as you're learning PowerShell, what would that be?
That would be like I was saying, the modules itself.
Modules.
Knowing which module to use for what it is that I need. Because I would see other people write these scripts exactly for what they needed, and I didn't know how they came up with it.
Yeah.
And then I found out about modules. My question always was, well, how do I find out which module I need?
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing right there.
I think that a good way is to use, what methods do they show? Do they show find module? Do they show searching the PowerShell gallery itself?
The PowerShell gallery mainly is what they showed.
Yeah, that is a good way to do it. I'd say out there as well, another great way is to ask the community. Find some community where there's PowerShellers talking and see if anyone else has run into this. Whether there's something public, or sometimes you'll find people that maybe have not published something that actually solves the issue, but they've been kind of maybe overthinking it and hesitant to it. If you ask in somewhere like PowerShell scripting channel of the PDQ Discord, discord.gg/PDQ, no pressure there, but there's a lot of really helpful ways you can just ask and all of a sudden get experts responding to you who've already solved and gone through the hurdles. And I think many of us have, if you've learned PowerShell to a certain degree, you've gone through the exact same challenges as 98% of other people who have gotten to that same place. So you're in good company for the journey ahead. And I hope you feel comfortable reaching out if you ever have any questions along the way. I hope you, being here in person, you can kind of feel that we are really all in this together and we're better together, that more people can put themselves out there and ask questions and meet somebody they've never met before and then join them for a podcast in the same day at a conference in a different city late at night in the lobby of a hotel.
It's pretty amazing. Yes, it is.
I say this a lot on the podcast, but it's all about finding your next step. And I hope that, in one way or the other in your life, when you're looking at things, you're feeling inspired in some way and you push yourself to take those next steps, because I think a lot of the people here that we all look up to, or wherever you are, whoever you're looking up to, they have been taking small steps for a long time. It has not been just one giant leap. They just made one little move and they got to a place where they were vibing well, you could say. Right. It takes time and embrace the journey. And when you can do that amongst others who are in the same kind of journey, it makes it a little bit easier to take the bitter pill, or however you would say it. Is this usually at conferences? Are you socializing? Are you coming to the after hours things like this? Are you in hotel lobbies doing things like this, or are you kind of out of your shell a little bit, or
I'm kind of out of my shell a little bit. I'm usually very introverted.
Yeah.
So it makes it fun. It makes it real enjoyable.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cool things about getting in person with people who are very similar in a lot of ways, have dealt with similar challenges at work, similar problems that we're all trying to solve. Getting them all together, there's some kind of magic about that. Yeah. Because oftentimes at work, if you're in IT, there's a lot of employees who are not IT, and it's not the same as being amongst just a whole bunch of people.
Exactly. Exactly right.
Yeah. I'd say it's a pretty good vibe. Everybody who I've interacted with has been pretty kind.
Yeah, me too. I found the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your go-to takeaways about modules, what would be another thing, if you had to choose one other thing to share about? It could be tech-related or it could be career and life-related. Because really what I found is so much of what I can help people with is I can show you about PowerShell stuff, but also I can help you along your kind of growth journey just by listening and being there and bouncing ideas back and forth, sometimes vocalizing things.
Anybody, but especially those new coming into the field, was being able to handle the overwhelm that comes with it, the stress that comes with it. Because if you're not careful, I've heard of people where the stress has gotten to them, really destroying their lives. So we don't want it to take away from our lives. We want it to, we want to be able to handle it and manage it. And if anything, the number one thing I've learned is don't take anything personally from end users, pressure, whatever, because they're just trying to do their job too.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a very mature perspective to have, because it is really the truth. If they're being grumpy or whatever, it's very likely they maybe have a not the best person as a boss who's breathing down their neck, giving them a really hard time. They're stressed out. Their blood pressure's hot, and having that in mind as you go about your career can definitely save a lot of grief. because I see some people kind of struggle with that and almost sort of go to war with their users in their mind.
Right.
It feels like it's them against the users, when in reality, we're ultimately all in this together, and it's a lot easier to go to work when you feel that way, when you feel like you're on the same page and you're contributing. For me, at least, I'm very much a chemical-driven person, so I always try and find the positive outlook on a situation.
Right.
Otherwise, I find it very hard to work very hard. Right? Like, it's very hard for me to, this really hard challenge in front of me. I better be feeling like I'm doing something productive. Otherwise, my brain's probably not going to be too invested.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, but that overwhelm is so true in IT, because for me, I feel like there's just so much to learn all the time.
Right.
Even to say you were getting started in IT right now, and there's X, Y, and Z you need to learn. By the time you learn X, Y, and Z, there's another addition to that that you have to learn. And it's kind of a forever chase of learning.
It's just an ongoing thing. You know?
I think AI has been the latest thing that we've all been hearing about and maybe dabbling with here and there, but a lot of technologies that didn't exist before are now like standard in the industry. Here's a question, and maybe a recommendation for a book. Have you read The Phoenix Project?
No, I haven't.
Ooh, I recommend it.
Okay.
Highly recommend it. It's kind of a story. It is a fiction story, so it's like a book, but it covers a story of an IT department, like this company that sells, I think, tires or maybe auto parts or something. And it covers a lot of the IT challenges that they have, but in kind of a story-driven way. But you can see some insights into the dynamics. And I highly recommend everyone who works in IT to read it. One, because it's entertaining. It's good conversation material, but also it can give you some insights into the traps that may exist in IT. Some very common known bads that can lead you in the wrong direction. So hey, maybe check it out, and we'll have another chat in the future.
Okay.
We can touch base about the Phoenix Project. Everyone out there, it is a pretty good book. I think I've talked about it on a couple podcasts in the past, but Troy, it's been a pleasure, my friend.
All right. Thank you
for
much.
reaching out. You reached out to me on the little messaging app. You said, hey, I saw you listen to the podcast, and now we're on the podcast. So I encourage everyone out there, whether it's me or you're listening to someone else, you heard a talk that you really enjoyed, reach out to that speaker. It really does go a long way. And you'd be surprised at what kind of connections you can make when you share what your challenges are, what was helpful for you. All that kind of thing goes so far in driving what I and other people who contribute to the community do. So if you're getting and consuming content from others, please do what you can to help them out in your own way, whether that's this podcast or any of the other many people in the community, whether it's PowerShell or Azure or sysadmin at large. Do your part. We're all in this together. And Troy,
thank you.
Fantastic week, man.
All right.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the PowerShell Podcast. The PowerShell Podcast is a PDQ production, making device management simple, secure, and pretty damn quick.